Our next invited speaker is Professor R.N. Iyengar, and he'll be speaking on the topic Vedic Adhidaivata roots of Purāṇic and Hindu astronomy. So I'll be happy to share a brief introduction. So Professor Iyengar sir is a distinguished ISDC chair professor and director of the Center for Ancient History and Culture at the Jain University. He uniquely combines the Indic knowledge traditions with modern methods and has set a new line of study of ancient Indian heritage, which in fact supports at least 2 or 3 objectives at the conference. His findings on comets, eclipses, earthquakes, ancient geography, concept of probability in classical music, effect of precision and identity of the pole star Dhruva in Vedic literature have attracted worldwide attention. And I'm sure we have already heard a very unique, curious thing that the Dhruva is the pivot of the universe that we are in. Parashar Tantra and Narada Shilpam, the Sanskrit treatise on astronomy and natural sciences and architectural civil engineering. Over to you, sir.
Namaste to all of you. First, let me thank the organizers for inviting me for this August conference to talk about a subject which is of great personal interest to me. When the organizers sent me the initial concept note, I was very much attracted to this, since the concept note, you can read it yourself later on, it talks about Vedic knowledge and also says many concepts that maybe at times appear incomprehensible. That's a very important thing. But it further says, traditional texts such as these may also encompass a rational system of thought. That's also interesting. Grounded in observational data, that's equally important, and offers significant contributions to contemporary scientific discussions. In fact, the 5 points I have underlined, I want to explore in this talk and say a few things. But before I start formally my talk, I have to say a few things. We are all brought up in a culture, what I would call a Vedic civilization and a Vedic culture. We are following so many things, the Purāṇas, which have come from traditionally for maybe last 4,000, 5,000 years. That aspect is on one side, that is a way of life. I'm not going to talk about it. But the other one is what we can do academically. That is, we can look into our texts, our subjects, that is our books, and see what it says. But when it comes to these books also, when you talk about Vedas, maybe there are about 100 very important texts, which are spread over a period of maybe 3,000 years, not printed or composed in 100 years or 50 years, but spread over a very long time. So, there is something, there is going to be a natural variation with time, and their content may be, because they were orally transmitted, maybe here and there it may seem incomprehensible, because the concept note says that somewhere it may seem it is going to be contradictory. When I read 2 different texts, it may seem contradictory. Many of these are because of these variations which as a natural phenomenon happen in nature. These have to be borne in mind. And then, when we come to the further things, the Puranas are going to enlarge on these things. The variation keeps on increasing. And we are in a situation, when we look back at those texts, back in our own history, we find that initially it seemed to be something very narrow and very cogent, but with time it has expanded. Now we have civilization itself, called maybe the Hindu civilization or the Vedic civilization, whatever you may call it, which is extremely complex mosaic or a matrix, you may say. But we know how to get along with these things. That's also equally true. The important things in the Vedas, with all the variations, there are three constants which I have, what I would call the invariants, are going to be the Prithvi, Antariksha, and Dyauh, which approximately can be translated as earth, atmosphere, and sky. That is not an exact translation in English, but it roughly explains what I mean. And these also can be taken together, and then, we get into something called Akasha or space or whatever. That takes us into the spiritual aspects or some other issues which I will not touch. So in a sense, these three are the minimum number of categories which are needed to explain human phenomenon. And these are the three which from the beginning we can see in the Vedas. Next, what is Adhidaivatam? What is Adhidaiva? Now, Adhidaiva cannot be understood or appreciated without two other things. That is the adhiyajña and the adhyātma. Particularly, adhiyajña becomes important. Now, Adhidaivatam is regarding the devatas. Devatas are what you may call deities. Originally, the devas were the shining celestials. Can call them roughly at least as celestial objects. There is no harm in that. They are the cosmic deities. But in the Vedic concept, when we go through that, in the next few slides I'm going to show that, there are something like natural forces or natural agents, if you like, or the regimes or regent deities. You can give so many names in English, but they won't convey the original meaning. It is something very deep inside. And they can even be action of these bodies. So Daivatam is going to be something related to Deva, and then Adhi meaning regarding the Adhidaivatam. It can be an action, it can be a quality, it may be a number, or it may be anything with these the cosmic deities, which in a modern language, if I had to say, if I have a physical phenomenon I want to explain, I need parameters. What I would say in my equation, going to be 3 parameters are needed or 4 parameters are needed. In a similar sense, here there are some categories or some parameters which may run from 3, which may start from 1, may go up to even infinity. This we have to bear in mind. Now, when it comes to yajna, we all have our own ideas about a yajna, I need not say. But an important thing is, this yajna was also conducted by the cosmic deities. So in many places, the yajna is of the cosmic yajna. And then when it refers to the yajna on the ground, it is an imitation of what is happening in the sky that is being practiced on the earth. And this yajna, as we today see, they are called going to be Shrauta. But also even the Grihya, even the puja we do in our home, is also a type of yajna. So we have to keep these things in mind. Now, adhyātma is about manas, spirituality, inner space, atman. I will not touch upon that in this talk at all. Now, from the time of Yāska, Yāskacharya was the first person, so to say, traditionally, to have tried to explain the Rig Veda, the Vedic mantras, in an intellectual way or in an academic way. See, the Brahmanas, Aranyakas, Upanishads, they all belong to some part of the Veda only. Whereas this is something outside that, is more academic, I would say that. And whatever we are having or whatever we know about Vedas today or whatever we practice as Vedic things, they have been filtered by our ancestors starting from Yāskacharya. So our understanding is going to be with reference to that only. And Yāskacharya gave us multiple meanings sometimes for the Rig Vedic. He says it is possible, this is also possible. Now you may wonder whether it is because if some of the Indology books, if you read, they will say, by the time of Yāska, the meanings of the Vedas were forgotten. That is why he has given like that. I don't accept that at all. I can't accept that for the simple reason there is a connection between the adhiyajña and the Adhidaivata, and Yāska himself shows that. So when that is being shown, this is like what you may say, a three-dimensional interpretation or a non-deterministic interpretation of the Veda or the perception, the Vedic perception. That is what we can say. It need not be unique with only one possibility. It can have multiple possibilities, at least three. Now, when the Adhidaivata meaning of what Yāska gives, and it is also matched with the adhiyajña. I am taking only Yāska's examples, but there are other examples also can be taken. It would seem that there is a strong correlation between the two. It is, when I see meaning, the meaning is not the kosha meaning or the lexical meaning which is given for the word. Soma is this, Soma is this. It is not that one. But the practice of the Shrauta karma in the adhiyajña practice, at least what is given in the books, that is primarily, and we can even see on the ground whenever such things are done, there is a connection between them. That meaning, as I said, it is not verbal. It may be in color, it may be in numbers, or it may be in the way it is done. It is a figurative match between the two, and the meaning is not, it's very hard to say that. We'll have to get into Vakyapadiya and other things, and Professor Virnar and Pandurang and others are the specialists in that. Artha, the meaning is something different, which goes up to the, beyond the Madhyamika level, it goes to the Pashyanti level. At the Pashyanti level, there may be a match between these things. I want to show that. However, we also keep in our mind, there are people who would insist all Rigveda is going to be only about Parabrahman. It has to be only adhyātma. It cannot be anything else. They will try to interpret each and every word in such a way. There are also people who would say that no, everything is only yajña. It is with sacrifices only, and it has to be interpreted only as the yajñika kind of thing. Whereas if you see, when Sayanacharya, in many of the Rigvedic mantras, he gives both the meanings. He is primarily a yajñika, he gives the adhiyajña meaning, but he is not against the adhyātma or the adhidaivata meaning, even though it's a little bit seems to be hesitant in some places about it. So devata, from there comes daivata, from there comes the adhidaivata. So this leads from cosmological ideas, because the devatas are the cosmic deities, into an astronomical observation, because they would like to look at the sky. This is the development of, at least as I have understood, kind of Indian astronomy. And this is closely linked to understand time. Time in capitals, T-I-M-E, or is kala. And that eventually merges with the adhyātma. Now, my next few slides are going to be about 2 or 3 examples of what I said. First, there is a mantra which says, Ekada pratida pibatsakam saramsit trimshatam indo somasya kanuka. If you see the meaning of this, as given by Lakshman Sarup's Nigantu and Nirukta, that's a standard book. In a single drought, Indra drank 30 lakes full of Soma, and Indra is the lover of Soma. Now, if you see such a statement, what is it you make out? For the first time when you read it, well, there are stories about Indra. There are also stories about Soma. There are also about drinking Soma. And there are so many papers written about Soma, particularly by Western Indologists, to say whether it is a mushroom or whether it is something else, whether it is a Mexican thing or it is a ganja. Hundreds of things, and the priests were doing Somapāna because they wanted to get intoxicated or whatever and things like that. That is the kind of interpretation also you see. But if you see in our cultural villages would do a drama where Indra would be sitting in the heavens and he will have a drink of Somapāna and he will ask somebody to come and do that. It has gone into such a level, to a cultural level, and it becomes so confusing. But Let us see what Yāska says. Yāska clearly says there are two types of meaning which are possible. Yajñika Vedayante. Yajñika say what? In the Madhyandina Samana, that is in the afternoon somayāga, 30 cups of somarasa has to be consecrated and offered to Indra. That's the 30 cups. And Saramsi means only that. It is not a huge lake like that. And that is not the meaning, is what the Yajñikas say. Yajñikas do that. Even to this day, if they do it, they have to, it is there in some of the Shrauta Sutras where it has to be done. It is done. Now, Nirukta, Yāska says, look, it has to be interpreted in a different way. What is that? Indra is actually a Kalabhimani Devata. That is what Sayana later on picks up from the Nirukta. Nairukta Prasiddhyatu Kalabhimani Indraha. So Yāska says, look, Soma is actually, in one sense, the waning moon, Krishna Paksha moon. Moon in the Krishna Paksha, it is drunk. Devatas drink moon, is what is said in two of the other nigamas. Yam akshitim akshitayaha pibanti. Whom akshitim means those who don't, imperishables, don't get destroyed. They drink the imperishable itself. And then yatha deva amshum apyayanti. Then again, the devas fill up that also. The amshu or the soma or the rays or what we call in modern English the phase of the moon. So it is the dark fortnight. And in the dark fortnight, the 30 is morning 15, night 15, together it is 30. In the Adhidaivata sense, Indra's drinking soma, that is moon, is passage of time. The interesting point is about quantification as 30 equals 15 days plus 15 nights. This is not a single example. There are other examples also. I will show one more. You see that from the beginning, from the very beginning, when the celestial devatas were organized, there is a concept of soma, some nectar or some special thing, or we'll not go into what that should be in the celestial sense. It will take too much of time. Or it may be some drops which are coming from the Milky Way and getting into moon, they might have thought, or it may be going into all the celestial objects. But the gods come to drink. That is there. In Shatapatha Brahmana and in all the Vedas, it is there. And it is not a drop that he takes and drinks. So the 30 count is going to be the whole of the Krishna Paksha is what Yāska says. If that has been the interpretation, and that would have given encouragement to further thinking in the country starting from about at least 2000 BC or 1500 BC. To look at moon, look at the sky in a different way. Now, let us go with Soma a little bit further. Then we have the famous Surya Vivaha Sukta. So in the Surya Vivaha Sukta also Soma comes. And there clearly, once again, Adhidaivata meaning and the adhiyajña meaning both are given. Somam manyate papivan. What he says, the translation is here, the gist is this. Those who think they are drinking soma, they just don't know. If it is the ordinary soma, which is not done in the yajña, it is not a real soma. That is one meaning. Second is, those who think they are drinking soma, that is, which is in the sky, that he doesn't know what is soma. It is only the gods who can drink that. So the mantra also has that, ayajva and adeva. Adevas cannot drink soma. Ayajvas also cannot drink soma. There is an equation here. Ayajva is similar to adeva. Yajva is similar to deva also. That is where a mathematical thinking enters into that. That is a kind of a symbolic thinking enters into it. And you would know that there are only some particular type of yajvas, they can do somayāga. The adhikara is not for all people. Only certain people who have something, I can't go into that, they do that. And they are also called the bhusuras. Bhusara is a bad word nowadays. If I say that Brahmins are taken to be Bhusaras, that is wrong. But that was not the sense in which it was there. And if you see in the some of the rituals, you have to understand, we have to see the adhiyajña rituals also. When the ritvik varnam is done, when the ritviks are taken for agnishtoma or whatever, they have to be treated as devatas. They are treated as deities who come from their mitra varna, aprastata. They are all the devatas is what they have to think. They may have human form, but they are actually the devatas. So, Yaska's final conclusion is this: Rupa Visheshaihi Voshadihi Chandramava. Depending on the form and the content, it is either the herb or it is going to be moon. So, where is this going to lead this? We have already seen it previously. Soma can be taken as, moon in the Adhidaivata sense. And action is going to be Somapāna is also Adhidaivatam because it's concerning that. That is, the digits of moon's orb in the dark fortnight. Very interesting thing comes next. This is to say there are multiple dimensions for this, for the interpretation of the Rig Veda. It is not the interpretation, they themselves have that. And several people have observed this. I'm not telling this for the first time. It is there, even Vakyapadiya says there are three meanings. Madhvacharya gives the three meanings, adhyātma, adhiyajña, and adhidaiva. And so many people have said this. But you have to go further with the devatas. Traditionally, okay, is the Brihad Devata, Nirukta. There are so many devatas which are there. And some people say there are 3, some people will say 33, some people will say more, 3,339. 33 crores is also there. Even politicians use the word. There are 33 crore devatas and all that. So, all these have some connection with time is what we will see. As it happened with the first one, 30 Saramsi, it also has connection with time. The yajna. What is a yajna? I can't go into all the details. There are so many yajnas which are listed canonically, Dashapurna, Chaturmasya, Pashubandha, Atiratra, Somayāga, so many things. But one of the things is very important one is the Darshapurna because it is connected with moon. So I'm just taking that for the first time because we have talked about moon so far. Now, theoretically, that is in the textual details if you see, Apastamba says, Yajñam Yakyasyamaha Tat Tribhirvedaihi Vidiyate Rigveda Yajurveda Samavedaihi. Rigveda Yajurvedabhyam Darshapurnamasa. Darshapurnamasa is given or it is enjoined by Rigveda and Yajurveda. Yajurveda is easy to see because the first the Taittiriya Samhita, the Ishayatva Arjayatva, that is going to be the 14 Anuvakasars are only about Darshapurna. Also it comes in Taittiriya Brahmana and in other places. We have to discriminate two things. One is the text, the other is the practice. So the practice is the prayoga or the paddhati, where all these things are collected and made into an actual procedure. Now if you see where in Rigveda Darshapurna comes, it is not in the Surya Vivaha Sukta, not in the other places. It is there in a 10th mandala in what is called the Sauchika Mantras, Sauchika Agni Sutras. It is going to be 10.51, 52, 53 and others. There you would see, the reason is, for the people who do Darshapurna even to this day, their first preliminary dhyana shlokas or meditation shlokas are in this mandala. That is what is the meaning of this. We'll quickly go through this. 1051 is a conversation between Agni. Agni is hiding in a distant place and Devatas want to bring him to the yajna. What is the yajna is different. What wants to bring him. He says, I will not come because my brothers were killed in the yajna. His brothers were the Bhupati, Bhutapati, Bhutanampati. So he says, I won't come. But then these people convince him to come because they offer him something. This is the Upakhyana or the Akhyana, because all these principles are stored in our Veda in the form of legends and stories. If there were direct equations or direct measurements, they would have been forgotten because they are so boring. But these are the stories which are still remembered because they are very peculiar. Now, quickly, next one, that is the 1052, that is also Sauchika, it's called Sauchika Agni. Sauchika is a very peculiar word. Sauchika means it gives a suchana, it's something like an index, or it's something like an information. But traditionally it is taken, Sauchika is the Rishi, Sauchika is the Devata, it is how it is taken. We will not go into that. But in the last mantra, there is a number, Trinishata Trisahasrani Agnim Trimshacha Deva Namacha Saparyanti. It says the Vishwadevas are counted as 3,339 in this hymn. And this number is for bringing the Agni by the Devas, and these Devas are of these many. So these many Devas were needed to bring that particular Agni. And that is described in the Brihad Devata in great detail. And also in some of the other suktas, Brahmanas, Kata Samhita, Kapisthala Samhita, this number comes. And you wonder, it is not an ordinary number. If it is a small number, okay, I will say maybe 3, 10, 12. If it is going to be 60,000, 100,000 ayuta, maybe it is a very large number. It is not like that. Very specific 3339. How did it come? What is the meaning behind it? Meaning is available. It is not that it is not available, it is available. And figuratively it says, these are the people, this is the thing which comes to life month by month, each day, aharahar jayate masi masi. It is in the Rig Veda itself. So Agni is honored by these number of gods, is the meaning of the last hymn. Then 1053 says, Agni has arrived with the time, with the life given. Life is actually the time given to it. And we have understood the secret of the sacrifice. It says, apichyam or guhyam, that is the meaning of the word which is used there. Then 55 says, there is a red bird which has come, and the bird which has no a nest, it has come today and it is going to move in the path of sun. That is the meaning which is given. So if you can see some poetic coloration in this, that would only mean, Sayana's Bhasha says, the moon on the full moon day, he is the Brahma, he is the Samit also, Agni comes to do the Homa there. That is the Vyakhyana which is given for this 10.52 mantra, and he becomes red, at least in the next one. It is not in the same sukta, but in the next sukta. Should be something like a, can suspect it is a total lunar eclipse, which could have happened. But it doesn't say how, why this number 3339 came up for that. That is almost available in Brahmanda Purāṇa. Brahmanda Purāṇa says, once again, chapter 23, gives a detailed Purāṇic astronomy or cosmology, which is there, that Trayascha Trimshataschaiva, Trayas Trimshat Tathaivacha, Trayascha Trisahasrata Devaha Somam Pibantiva. When? It is only in the Krishna Paksha. Then it says, in the Shukla Paksha, these digits keep on increasing. It very clearly says that. So it is a palindrome, 33, 303, 3003. Drunk this way, the dark digits increase with corresponding decrease in the bright digits. This is a lunar number, and this is the same number which was there in the Rig Veda. And there are two more things which Samhitas are not well studied to this day. It's very unfortunate. They are available only as printed text. Both the Kata Samhita and the Kapisthala Kata Samhita, they say this is the number which is given in a different way, 3, Trayascha, etc. But it adds up to that. And he also at the end says, Mam avantu, Yajñam avantu, Mam avantu. These numbers, they are these devas, should protect me. And then it says, Anuva arabe anuva arabadvam. Anu means after or a repetition. You also start something, I also start that way, yajna. And what is that yajna? It can only be the following. If we put adhiyajña and adhidaivata together, the count started on a full moon, proceeded till Amavasya, because in the full moon day, the devatas come to start drinking, and then stopped, because in the Shukla Paksha, you can't drink, it keeps on increasing. And like this, if you say 3339, you have to multiply her total time into 2. Because the Shukla Paksha, Krishna Paksha, both are happening, time is continuous. So it becomes 6, 6, 7, 8 nights, or for the time being, we will take it as tithis. If I take one month or one lunation is 30 tithi, I get 222.6, nearly 223. This is, the 223 is synodic months, is what is called the Saros period, or the 18-year lunar eclipse cycle. So Vedic months were lunar, but the year was solar. It is known one solar year was taken to be about 370 to 372. So this becomes 371 into 18 or 18 years. So this number is a proxy, and it is not the total period, but it is only in the Krishna Paksha, and the whole meaning is also contained in that. So it is a proxy for that. And what is this very interesting thing? If it happens in a particular nakshatra, after 18 years, it will happen in the same nakshatra. And this number, if you take a year as 360, it becomes 18.55, which is the Rahu period for the Siddhantas, or the Nordic period of the Siddhantas. Even the 18-year period is the pet number for Vedic astrologers because it is the Rahu Dasha. And Vridagarga and Lagada, they seem to have known these things. Vridagarga Jyotisha. Reason is 223 divided by 18. That is the, if you take the continued fractions, it becomes approximately, becomes 62 by 5. 62 by 5, that is 62 synodic months, equal to 5 years, is the Vedanga Jyotisha. We are using a loose word because Lagada's calendar is not the only Vedanga Jyotisha. Vridagarga Jyotisha and Parashara Tantra were the original Vedanga Jyotisha. They also knew this. And again, if you take the sidereal number, because it happens in the same nakshatra, I get 67, 62. That is 67 sidereal months will be equal to 62 synodic months. So in other words, whether they have not explicitly said this, let me be very particular, but there is a very strong correlation between this. Now, what is the practice? The practice, you can see into this day it is done. And the peculiar thing about Darsha Pūrṇimā is, most important thing is the Vedi. It is the Darshiki Vedi, which is in the center. That is the doll-like thing. No fire is put on that. The fire can be only in the other three, the Ahavaniya, Garhyapatya, and the Dakshinagni. But this is the most important Vedi. You cannot escape it. That is not built in 5 layers like the others. And the Vishwadevas are invited to sit here are the Barhishadas on the grass or on the darba. And the construction of this Vedi is given in the Shulba Sutras. In fact, the very interesting geometrical information is available. I can't go into details. It is available in my other references. 2 rational numbers come up to find out the area of this. One irrational number, or root 3 and pi. So these 2 numbers are approximated in the Shulba Sutras. And if I find out the area of this, that is going to be nearly 3339 angulas. So 3339 Vishwadevas are invited, and the area is made to be equal to 3, nearly. That is what they desire. Whether they did it or not, I don't know. Today there may be variations in this, but theoretically, this is the one. Yeah. And there are so many more interesting things with this Vedi. So Taittiriya Brahmana describes this Vedi. And it says very specifically, it cannot be deeper than 4 angulas. It is not built in 5 layers, but it cannot be deeper than 4 angulas. Reason is, it says, it's a translation which I have used by Dumont. If you dig it deeper than 4, it belongs to the Pitrus. Pitru means not the Pitru Devata, but your ancestors. Because the ancestors were doing these things. So if you go there, it won't go to the gods, but dig only 4 angulas. Seems to be an archaeological significance in this. That is my personal feeling. And the mantras which Lord, the Vedi, is this. Pura Krurisya Visrupo, etc. It says, the Yajamana has to say that you are the glorious Vedi by your self-law. Swadha is self-law. My ancestors were able to keep earth and moon. That is the meaning. Sayanacharya explains this very well. Purve Yajamana Vedi Rupam Yam Prithivim Krishna Bhumeha Asuryaha Sakashat Urdhvamadaya Chandramasi Amrta Kiranaihi Sardam Stapitavantaha. Idanin Tanasto, the people who do today, Dhimantaha, they are also very strong people. Tamimam Vedim Manasa Anuchintya Tasyam Yajante. They only, in their mind, they are thinking that the earth is going to be kept on the moon. Please see, if earth has to be kept on the moon, because in many places the shadow is taken as the original thing. So it is the shadow which is going to be there, and that of course is in the Puranas very clearly said, Bhuchayam Udritya, etc. It comes. And we did an experiment on this because this should be something which is valid even to this day. This is the moon's azimuth or declination, rise, azimuth or declination, just looking like this, but it has been done on a computer. We do it only in the Krishna Pakshas, put marks for 3,339 points, I get a shape like this. You see that this would be almost similar to this Vedi. There's a doll-shaped Vedi which is there, and no doubt that is called moon. That is the moon's orbit. The Vedic moon's orbit was that. And moon they did not represent like what we say, the crescent or in some other manner, but moon was represented like this. And there are so many mantras about this, because that is between Ahavaniya and the Garhyapatya, between the Dyauh and the earth, and that is the moon. The interesting things don't stop with this. Now, I constructed this. We started with a lunar eclipse on 7th September 2006. You can see 18 years later, 18 September 2024, not yet come. It is a lunar eclipse, and both of them are going to happen in the Purva Bhadra Nakshatra. That can be verified easily by looking into a Panchanga. Now, what about the person who was doing the exercise, that is the Yajamana? His thing is, he prays to the Vedi along with the Yajamana Patni, and then says, the Vedi, they want to go and live in Swarga, in heaven. Swarga Kamo Yajeta. That is the Swarga Kama he is. He wants to go to Swarga. For that he says, Mitra Varunau Tvottarataha Paridattam Druvena Dharmana. This Vedi is bounded by Mitra Varuna. Mitra Varuna are two of the stars which you will see later on. By a dharma and dhruva is what it says. There are double meanings here, we will not go into that. And then the Brahma who is there, the priest, he has to do the Ashirvada. And what is the Ashirvada he does? Pranaya Yajñam Devata Vardayatvam Nakasya Prishte Yajamano Astu. Let him go to Nakasya Prishta, that is, let him go to heaven. Sapta Rishinam Sukritam Yatra Lokaha Tatra Imam Yajamanancha Dehi. Where the Saptarishis are there, you take him there. But he says it in Upamsha, that is, only mentally he does the Ashirvada. Now, if you see that, there is considerable cosmography here. The Dashapurna itself imagines so much of cosmography or cosmology, where things are, and then you may question, who is the Saptarshi? Today we have an idea Saptarshi is Ursa Major, but where it is said in the Veda that it is so, it comes up next. But before that, two important things are there. Where is Naka That comes up in one of the Upanishads. Ambasya pare bhuvanasya madhye nakasya prishte mahato mahiyan. It is in the center of the bhuvana. Center of the bhuvana is going to be what you look at the north and at the center point. Slowly we get into the Meru concept, That is the bhuvana, that is the center. And that is where Amba is the Milky Way. There is a Vyad Ganga, or the heavenly river. And by the side of that is the Saptarshi, is what it says. Number one. And if you see the sky, today's sky is like this. This is the Bhuvanasya Madhya, Polaris. But somewhere in the 3rd millennium BC, Bhuvanasya Madhya was here. It was not along this constellation, what I call Ursa Minor, but it was along another constellation, which is today called Draco. Do the Vedics explain this? They do. That is what I want to show next. This comes up in the Taittiriya Aranyaka. There is again another Vedic, Yajurvedic text. First it says, Risheha sapta atrishchayate sarve atrayo agastyascha nakshatra shankruto avasan. They are with the stars. These rishis who are respected in the Rig Veda and the Vedics, the Saptarshis, and also Agastya. Agastya is in the south, as we know, but Agastya comes even in the Rig Veda. They are with the nakshatra. So first, pramana you get to look at the nakshatra. Second, there is also a reference to Meru, and Kashyapa does not leave the Meru. Kashyapam erum najahati. That is another mantra. So the concept of Meru and concept of is rishis being in the nakshatra, a double meaning there, already is in the Veda. We are not creating it. And then there is one very important thing, even to this day this is used, called the Swadhyaya Brahmana. Swadhyaya Brahmana is this. The mantra, can't go into all the details here. It says, Tachiro dharmo murdhanam brahma uttara hanuhu yajño adhara vishnu hridayam. It explains a body part. Face is this, skull is this, hand is this, legs are this. Then Purvapadav, Atriya Madhyam, Mitra Varnahu, Aparapadav. The back two legs are Mitra Varna. Puchasya Prathamam. So Pucha is the tile. So imagine there is a tile, is an animal. Prathamam Kantam, the first part is Indra, then Prajapati, then Abhaya is the Chaturtha. Fourth is the Abhaya. It gives very clear, discrete, specific positions. And what is that? Saye Sava Yesha Divyaha Shakwaraha Shishumaraha. That is the celestial animal Shakwara. Shakwara is an animal. Divya, it is celestial. Shishumaraha. Shishumaraha is the name. Okay, then it goes further. Durvastvamasi, Durvasya Kshitamasi, Bhutanam Adhipatirisi. This Shishumara is the Bhutanam Adhipati. Simple Sanskrit you will be able to understand. And Bhutanam Shreshtosi, Tvam Bhutani Paryavartante. All the Bhutas, all creation goes around you. That Paryavartante, that is the starting point for Meru. Connected with this, the Meru concept is already there in the Taittiriya Aranyaka. And this Abhaya is the name of the fourth star. That became Dhruva in the Puranas. Abhaya became Dhruva. Abhaya means fearless. Dhruva is fixed. Now, Abhaya is the fearless child who went to the forest to do the in the Vishnu Purāṇa, and he went up and to the sky also, So he becomes the fearless child, and that is the Shishumara or the Shishukumara. Now, you can easily see this in any planetarium thing. This is the center in 2008, 3000 BC approximately. And I don't know whether you will be able to see this, but this animal figure you will see. This is the dragon figure. You have to imagine this as a Shishumara. I hope next one I will be able to show that. This is the axis, the Meru axis, to the earth, to that, and things will be going round and round. Now, the same thing is there in the Brahmanda Purāṇa. More than in the Vishnu Purāṇa, Brahmanda Purāṇa maintains the Purāṇic cosmology and the cosmic, the astronomy. Only difference being Uttanapada is replaced. There it was Brahma, here it became Uttanapada. That's all the difference. And then finally it also Pucche, Agnischa, Mahendrascha, Marichaha, Kashyapo, Dhruvaha. Pucha, Agni, Mahendra, Maricha, Kashyapa. Kashyapa is both are same. And then Dhruva are the four. And not only that, Tarakaha Shishumarasya Nastam Yati Chatushtam. These four, they don't set. They are circumpolar stars. They are not going to set. So Dhruva is not going to set. But it is going to go round and round there. Is in the Puranas. It describes that. I have no time for that. Finally, it says, here, Pariyati Ishvara Shreshta Medhi Bhutan Dhruvan Divi Agnindra Kashyapananto Charamosav Dhruva Smritaha. Gives an exact position, a definition, how to locate it in the sky. Ekayeva Brahmatyesha Meru Parvata Murdhani. Simple Sanskrit, you will be able to understand. And this is in the Brahmanda Purāṇa. And you see how the Adhidaivata, the Vedic thing, step by step, comes to observational astronomy. Puranas, the Hindu astronomy. The same thing flows into Siddhānta also. If there is time, I will talk about a few more things. And in the Brahmanda Purāṇa, there were expert model makers. Brahmanda Purāṇa talks of two figures. One is the Kulala Chakra, how the potter's wheel. You imagine Meru and all this like that, everything is going circular motion of the planets and all that. Second one is going to be oil mill, is a Medi, and these bullocks run the mill. Whereas they stand for the planets. They are driven by this part here, where Dhruva is there and he is rotating it. So imagine something like maybe a gear system or whatever, and that is what the explanation given is about. Taittiriya Aranyaka mantra about 3000 BC. This would be when it starts rotating, it will be about 1200 BC. And I suddenly come to the modern time. Because what happened to Dhruva in the modern time? Today, the stories which are said, it is still a story which the mothers tell their kids. I do hope it is being said, the Dhruva story. And if they have to see the Dhruva, they'll take them to the planetarium and show, look, Ursa Minor, Polaris, this is the Dhruva. Yes, as a quality it is true, that is fixed. Nothing wrong in calling it Dhruva, I don't deny that. But the Vaidikas did not accept it. Shankaracharya did not accept it. The other two Acharyas also did not accept it. In commenting on the Vishnu Sahasranama Nakshatra Name, Shankaracharya clearly says, Shishumara Varnane Vrishnu Hridayam. This is the reference, this is the pramana that you have to take, so it is in the Shishumara. Similarly, Parashar Bhatta goes still further. Tachiro Murdhanam, all that has to be taken in the Purāṇa also. And Raghavendra Suri in the 18th century also, he clearly says, it is the Swadhyaya Brahmana, from there I have to interpret it, not in any other manner. And you would see if I am not wrong, in the Madhva Sampradaya, Shishumara is, Vishnu is represented one form as a Shishumara. Important thing is, it is not Matsya. This has 4 legs. Purvapadav, Aparapadav, it is there, and Pucha Dhruva is sitting. This icon is there in some of the temples. Along with the Saligrama, the puja is done for that. Now, our Siddhāntic astronomers, they were, of course, very good rationalists. They were true to their science. They said it is the Dhruva Matsya, which is going to be near the pole, and what is called the polar fish in English, and that can be used for measuring time and all that, because that was in the 7th century, 12th century onwards. This statement from Siddhanta Shiromani is from Bhaskara, nearly 12th century. And in the 15th and 16th centuries, this was used by Padmanabha to develop a time measuring instrument in the night. In the night, this is called the Dhruva Brahma Yantra. This is all true, because they never talked about Shishumar. They obviously knew. But this was a new system which was coming in. But how did that come in? I mean, as a counter for observing and then trying to formulate these things. There is also one very interesting thing. I cannot skip that. There's one famous astronomer by name Kamalakara Bhatta in Varanasi. Obviously, he had this problem. Is Dhruva Chala or Achala? Chale Chalepi Dhruvabe Swameshat is what he writes. Let him be moving or let him be not moving, that's a different matter. But Parinita Naryaha, in the Vedic context, in the Vedic marriages, the bride has to be shown the Dhruva Nakshatra, Dhruva Kshiti. That mantra also has to be said. This is in the Ekagni Kanda and other sutras, it is there. That you can't skip it. Which nakshatra has to be shown? That was the question in the 17th century. So he says, you better show Ursa Minor, because that is Dhruva. That is, take the spirit of that, not the letter. Because that Dhruva, the Vedic Dhruva, Shishumara Dhruva, was far away, and he would have gone. And in the South Indian marriage functions, many of these, Dhruva is not shown. They show only Arundhati, as I have seen. Because Dhruva cannot be seen. The Vedic Dhruva cannot be seen. This brings us to a very can I operate this? I can take under 10 minutes, sir. I was told 1 hour, so I'm prepared for 1 hour. You can. Okay? Okay, fine.
Yes, you can take. You can take. Here is a video. Should I start it?
Yeah, you run it. See, this shows an animation from 3000 BC up to the present time, how the constellations are running around. This was the Dhruva, which was in the center. This is Ursa Minor. So Shishumara, that is this dragon, keeps on moving with time. And then every 100 years we have animated. Actually, it was done by Sundar, who is sitting there. And this comes around 1900 to this point, to this center point. So this is time. And you can see from Indra's drinking 30 pots, that is the 15 days time. We are coming to 1500, 2000 years time. And can I go back to the slides? I just made the same thing, put it in a different way, to show our cultural history. This circle represents the polar circle. That is where the pole stars are going to be. But it's due to precision. You know, the North Pole, the axial precision, the star which is going to be at the North Pole keeps on changing. And this circle takes about 27,000 years. It's quite well known. So if I take the constellation Shishumara, somewhere around 3000 BC, this was going to be Abhaya Dhruva. And interestingly, Vishnu Purāṇa says, gives the vara to Dhruva, your mother would also be near you as a star. And you can see that there is a star here, Suniti, near Dhruva. There is a star which is visible to the eyes. And as time keeps on changing, you have the Maitrayani Aranyaka, because in the Maitrayani Aranyaka, there is a lamentation why even Dhruva is moving. And there are also some times are given there to me. Then comes Shankaracharya around 800 CE. 0 is the common era. Then comes Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni I am giving here because Al-Biruni has commented on this, that Hindus think their pole star is in an animal called Shishumara, which in Persia we call it Susmar. That is something which is like a lizard. And he says, even though Brahmagupta and others, they know about the polar fish, superstitious Hindus think of their pole star in Shishumara. With 14 stars is what he writes. In his book Indica, you can see that. And that is again a verification, an independent verification that the ancient Vedic Dhruva was remembered by our people. So you can see that this is a very, what shall I say, an extraordinary culture that we are having, which has 2 stars. No other culture talks about 2 pole stars. One which is the Vedic pole star, one which is the present day pole star we are talking. Now, this kind of time which is there cannot be handled that easily. But what is time? If you see the Siddhāntic astronomers would say Kala Nirnaya Shastra and all that. Now if you see in the Yajisha Jyotisha, which is the Vedanga, says Veda yajñārtam abhipravrittaha kālanupurvya vehitascha yajñā. Tasmadidam kala vidana shastram yo jyotisham Veda sa Veda yajñam. This is an exaggeration. Not all the Veda is for yajña anyway. Both go together. The Jyotisha and the yajña, they are going together. Yajña is also the cosmic yajña, which was happening there. So, in the Maitrayani Aranyaka, King Brihadrata laments the Sarvam Chedam Kshaishnam Pashyamo. Everything is transient, he says. Damsha Mashaka, like the flies, everything is dying. Even the Chakravartis over there, they are no more. And his major lamentation was Prapatanam, Bhumehe Shikarinam Prapatanam, Dhruvasya Prachalanam. Even Dhruva, the meaning itself is fixed. That fixed is unfixed today. That there can be nothing more which can lead to atheism, if you can say, as a mistrust or a distrust, first order anomaly that our culture has seen as maybe philosophical, maybe for some people it was real, and that was the Dhruvasya Prachalanam. And he further also says, Sthanam, Vatarajunam, Vraschanam, the planets and other things, they are all changing their position. Why? Okay, the Upanishads say so many other things. I will not go into the Shakya's description, but the same Upanishads defines Kala. Kala is two, he says, Dveva Brahmano Rupe, Kalascha, Akalascha. There are two. One is Kala, the other is Akala. And what it says is Aditya Purva, before Aditya, that is before sun was created. You imagine, maybe 4.39 billion years or whatever, it was Akala. And only after Aditya came, we have the Kala. Kala means which can be divided, Kalayate, which has Sakalaha. That is, you can have the Amsha, Nimisha, Masa, and all of that you can have. That is the one is what says. Then it says Samvatsara, Tasmat Samvatsaro, why Prajapati, etc. It goes like that. So this is the philosophical classification. Now our interest is, of course, begins with sun. Even in Rigveda it is with sun. When he says 30 or 40 or 33 or 3339, it is like something like an Ahar Gana or some other kind of Gana. And that counting is a discrete counting which is there. Now, you can do all of this by looking at full moon, new moon. You can do a thought experiment, you can do that. And in the morning, what do you do? In the Rigveda, what did they do? There is a mantra for that. It says, okay, there are 30 divisions in Rigveda first mandala, and also in the sixth mandala it says, Surya has trimshat padaha, 30 foot. Now, of course, there are people who are telling this is spatial, this may be time. Sayanacharya takes this as time, because next comes aharaha, it is day by day, so it has to be for time. Now, in Parashara Tantra, he says, the primary numbers are selected as Kala Kshetriyo Samyam. See, the 30 comes because for moon, there are nearly 15 and 15. There is a story on that, I will not go into that. So 30 is an integer number which is there. The day is also divided into 30 because the month is divided into 30. So the morning is 15, night is also 15. That is what it says. Now, okay, that is given as Parashara Tantra, it is asserted, Kala Kshetriyo Samyam. Puranas also says, sun covers 1/30th of Prithvi in one Muhurta. That is the statement in the Puranas also. Rigveda in 5th mandala, for the morning, it takes only 5 divisions. Prataha, Sangava, Madhyanha, Aparanha, and Sayam. These are the only 5 divisions it is taking. And these are all 3 muhurtas long as per Vishnu Purāṇa. But what about the night? Night time, how are they doing? It is going to be very difficult to do that. And there is a very interesting story on this. With this, I am coming to my conclusion. Indra was once again there. Indra was afraid to go through the night. He asked all the devatas, you please help me to go through the night. Devatas refused, telling that if we go through the night, we may die. we will not come with you. Then finally, the Chandas says, okay, I will come with you. The 7 Chandas go with the Indra. It is there here. Deveshu na pratyavindat. Then Chandamsi cha ratrim vahanti. Tanvai pratamenaiva paryayena. It goes on like that. The story is that. This comes in the Aitreya Brahmana. And the night was negotiated in 3 paryayas, 3 cycles of what? That is called the Atiratra Yaga. Atiratra Somayāga is a 1-night yaga. And Atiratra is mentioned in the Rig Veda itself, even though this time measurement is not there. But in the Aitreya Brahmana, it is there. So there is a reference to real time in the Vedic rites. It is not just some arbitrary time or philosophical time. It's a real time. In the night, what would you do? And Sayana says, Kramena nirakarana prakaram darshayati dasha dasha gatika ekaiko bhaga ityevam ratre. That means the priests, they have to do an exercise. It's called the Chamasagana. And there are going to be 3 equal paryayas, 3 cycles in that they go through the night. And all the mantras concerning Indra and the Chandas come there. And how it is done, that's again a very interesting thing. This is where mathematics or physics or measurement comes into picture. And that is, it is through Brihati Sahasra. Brihati Sahasra means 1000 Brihati mantras. This is mentioned in both in the Aitreya Aranyaka and the Brahmana. All the Rigvedic mantras, which belong to what is called the Ashwin Shastra, then Ushasyam and Agneyam, they are selected. They are all assembled. They are made into 1000 Brihati. Brihati Chandas is 36 aksharas. That will be 36,000 aksharas have to be there. If the 36,000 aksharas are repeated, they can cross over the night. That is the meaning. So you can see how they connect the speed with that. Now, what is night? That is another question. It is from sunset to sunrise. They say no. Mahati Ratris after midnight is what they take. So we have calculated something, the Pratarhanuvaka and all that, and there is definitions when this has to start, how many muhurtas after that it has to start, etc. And if I make it a little bit more mathematical, in the Aitreya Aranyaka, if I take approximately, it is going to be 3000 Vedic aksharas per gatika. That is the speed with which they are going to be doing. Now, the records of Rig Veda available. So what we have done is, we have collected the records and analyzed them. I will show that. But before that, there is something on the speed. There are 3 speeds available already in the Vedic practice. This I am telling because astronomers use 3 speeds. Madhyama Vritti, then Dhruta Vritti, and the Vilamba Vritti. There is a Bhaskara's commentary on that and how it has to be done. There are 3 ways in the Rik Pratishakya, and when it has to be done is also given. And what we did was collected the recorded Rigvedic mantras, found out their speed today, what speed they chant. The Mysore, in the southern version, it is going to be about 7,225 per gatika. I'm sorry, 3,650 aksharas per gatika. I'm using gatika here, is half muhurta. 30 muhurtas is ahoratra to ahoratra. Or the Siddhāntic astronomers used gatika, 60 gatikas. But before that, there were 60 nadikas were there. There is a difference between nadika and gatika. Nadika is measured by a outflowing jar, water clock. Gatika is measured by a sinking bowl. That is a very important information here. And what we found was, this is about 7,000 northern, double this, 3,650. This is a Dhruta Vritti, whereas this is the Madhyama Vritti. Important thing engineers should be knowing, if we want to measure something, if it is linear variation, it is always correct. Normally, natural phenomena, if I go to longer and longer ones, they tend to become slower and slower. It is not that. They have trained the people in the Rig Veda thing for the last 3,000 years. It has to be in a uniform speed, whether it is a longer sukta or whether it is a shorter sukta. And this is the sinking bowl I was telling, the Gatika Yantra. And the Siddhāntic astronomers, they put forth a measure on this. If you say 60 Gurvaksharas will take 1 Vinadi or 1 Vigati is what they say. This is a definition which has come from Aryabhatiya itself. Dasha Gurvaksharaha, Prāṇaha, and like that it starts. And there is a detailed commentary on Aryabhatiya Bhaskara. He says it should be in medium pace. If you do it, then you are going to get this. Why this was needed, you will see in a minute. There is a measurement of time in Puranas, 13,500 Lagvakshara, Parashara Tantra, 16,000, Lagadas Vedanga, 12,000, Siddhāntic Astronomy, very clear, 7,200, Gurvakshara. Gurvakshara is very important, it cannot be any syllable. And the time for astronomers is real, so 60 Gurvakshara audio scale has to be done. And what did they do? They had to say, it's a Bhaskara's very humorous verse, Makante Pakshasyante Paryakashe Deshe Swapsihi. Not read it. If you chant this once in medium speed, it takes 24 seconds. All are Gurvaksharas. This is a very special meter called Leela Khela. It is not Mandakranta or Shardula Vikridita or any meter, it is a specific meter. And if by this time, if you repeat it 60 times, that bowl has to sink once. There's a 1 Gatika. So the Shilpi who is doing this Gatika, he can ask the students to repeat this shloka several times and then do that. And this is how Indra got through the Atiratra overnight sojourn. And the meaning of this is very interesting, humorous. He is asking his wife, who is very beautiful, not to sleep outside in the open ground on a Pūrṇimā day, because she is so beautiful, Rahu will think, moon is here, and Rahu is going to catch your full moon face, so please go inside and sleep. That is the meaning of the shloka. So you can see, Indra also humorously had to go through the chandas to do this, and this helped our Siddhanta astronomers will Kala Nirnaya Shastra. Important thing is that if the Vedic thing of 7,290 or 6,000, 7,800, this were not there, because the Rigvedic Akshara is different. There is a Vedic Akshara. There is no Gurvakshara, Lagvakshara there. Whereas only in classic poetry you have the Gurvakshara, Lagvakshara. So these people had to cater to the people, the Sahitikaras, who are going to object why you are using this vritta. So they generated their own vritta for that. This is my last slide. Sorry if I extend my time. Put up a few of the summary here. The deity is a cosmic entity. The devata is a cosmic entity. Preferable to see in that way. The Vedas Lord are worship, are pray, describe, forums, actions, almost everything like a family person. So that, my family member, I may praise, I may scold, I may beat, I may do whatever I want. Because I have that love. In the same way they handle the Rigvedic, the devatas are handled. There is ambiguity because in Sanskrit, the Gunavachaka is used for the name also. If you say Dhruva, means fixed, it's also the name of a person. If somebody I say is beautiful, I can call him Sundara. That is only a quality, but the name also becomes Sundara. So this dichotomy is there in understanding our text, but it can still be done. So the Brahmanda, Vayu, Vishnu, Purāṇa seem to have retained much of the Vedic essence in the original. Siddhāntic astronomy is basically founded on the Adhidaivata dimension of the Vedas. This is my submission to this audience. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I may be able to take.
Atri mantra is there, Saptarshi mantras. One of the Saptarshi mantras is...
the fifth mandala.
Yes, sir. Do you see any Adhidaivata meaning in that?
The Adhidaivata meaning is same. That is, Swargbhanu is called Asura in the next mantra it comes. And the detailed Adhidaivata it will take time to explain because you have to go in the another mantra. It is there, Pratiprayanam Asurasya Vidwan. Then the devatas are worshipping. What is Pratiprayanam? It is something which is a cycle which is coming back itself. And then again, the difficulty with understanding the Vedic is interpreting what is Agni is the question. And who are the Vishwadevas are the question. And Vishwadeva, there are three kinds of mantras which says, and I think I'd like to personally talk to you on
this
those
mantra, I think in this mantra, what I have heard, I am not sure, but Atri prays to Varuna. Atri prays to Varuna to release some eclipse related thing.
Right.
So do you see any stretch of imagination to say?
No, I don't find, I used to find, nowadays I don't find it.
Okay.
Well, many of these are allegorical. And if you see that mantra further, it is Indra who comes finally. The next mantra is Indra who releases. Atri prays to Varuna, all right, but who releases? Indra comes and releases. So it is Indra as the Kalabhimani Deva. The most curious thing in that mantra is Atraya next comes. They only could do it by bringing together stone, grava. No. What was the stone they brought together? That is the crux there. That is the most intriguing thing for me. So I wonder whether the Dashapurnamasa Vedi, which I said, that could have been created initially by simply putting a pebble, looking at the moon and approximately keeping. And that shape is so robust. You miss a few, doesn't matter, the shape remains same. Nearly it remains same. So they were doing something to bring together, to calculate something using the stone. I don't know, possible.
Sir, thank you for that wonderful lecture. So you mentioned about Vedic Adhidaivata. It may not be directly related to, majorly related to the major point, but I just wanted to know that Vedic Adhidaivata, that you mentioned that verse also with the story of Bhaskaracharya. But Bhaskaracharya describes Vedic Adhidaivata as Dunisha Nimajjana Mitya. He says that what should be the time duration for now the measurement of Ghatika is 24 minutes. But according to Bhaskara, Ghatika Yantra is a little different. He says that place a Ghatika and with whatever size of the hole. And you calculate that how many times in a day it gets Nimajjana. And then divide it by, that time by divide 60 Ghatikas by that particular times, how many times it gets Nimajjana, and whatever duration you get, you consider it as a Ghatika. So this is what Bhaskaracharya's definition of Ghatika is.
Yeah, you see, in all these things, as I see, there is a development.
Yeah.
If you have unequal things, or your Ghatika is different from my Ghatika, we get into problems. If you see that further, there is a Ghatika Yantra Vidhana Vidhi, there is a manuscript. From Varanasi we have collected it. And also, you would know that in the Vivaha Prayoga Paddhati, particularly in South Kerala, even to this day, there is a Ghatika Yantra Pujana Vidhi. Even though Ghatika Yantra, they don't do anything with it. There, in fact, I think Bhaskara says that is needed for Vivaha Paddhati, Vivahas. Because at the right Muhurta, the Vaidikas have said, when Chandra is with a particular nakshatra, that Muhurta Vivaha has to be done. So that concept of Muhurta, today we use it in a different sense. The original Muhurta was a measure, equal, 1/30 of that. So what you say is correct, but there is a development of that further.
Thank you. And another one, that with respect to Nadi, the term Nadi also, that Nadi Valaya Yantra has been described.
Nadi Valaya Yantra is different. I am not talking about that.
Yeah.
It is the Nadika Yantra,
Yeah.
where water is put and water flows out through a pipe.
Okay.
That is the Nadika Yantra I have mentioned. Not the Nadi Valana. I am not talking. There are so many such yantras which are there.
Yeah.
I talked about only that because the word Ghatika doesn't appear before the common era, at least in the text I have seen. It is the Nadika which is there. Many times it is used in Nadika. That is why I mentioned this.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Iyengar, sir. As an authority, you have very, very systematically made the academic presentation towards understanding of Vedas. In fact, you have elaborated the very theme of presenting the rational thought system observed in Purāṇic and Siddhāntic cosmology with a mathematical framework, where you gave several examples of how the mathematical time frame could be calculated with different mantras which appear in Rig Veda, and also the positions of several planets could be established with the help of mantras in Yajurveda. Interestingly, 30 cups of Soma, 15 days and 15 nights, 3339 devas, the 18-year eclipse period, sun moving 1/30th Prithvi in one muhurta, and the meter of chanting in one ghatika. So thank you so much for this amazing point that you have made in favor of the mathematical framework to be established to understand cosmology better.